Hey, this is Deepesh, and in this video I'm going to take you through the second N of the 3N ads formula, which is all about engagement. So if you followed the previous video, which was all about getting someone to stop and take note of your ad, this is now about capturing and retaining their engagement. So how do you do that? And actually I want to illustrate that with a video which as far as the newsfeed goes and some of the things that are taught around best practice for video really kind of brings that across. So you may have seen this before, but I'm just going to run a short part of this video so you get an idea. Now, one of the key things to notice about this is how they use the music to complement the video. However, without the music, you can still get a sense of what's going on as well. So they're using the visuals, they're using the sound to really get the effect across. And you know, when you combine the both together, you're getting that kind of whole immersive feeling of the drum beat and the pulse of the video, which matches as well. So it really keeps your eye drawn, it keeps you interested in what's going on. And actually what often happens is people watch this video and they underestimate how long the actual video took, because it's so immersive. You don't realize that it is actually 107 seconds long. It was specifically designed that way. But you know, before you know it, a couple of minutes is gone and you've been watching this video. So this is a great example of kind of what works in the newsfeed, because it's engaging and it gets you straight away. You know, this is one of the most important parts of engagement with Facebook ads is you've got literally a few seconds to get them to take note of your ad, and then a few seconds, if that, to get them to engage with your content as well. So whether you're running a video or you've got copy and static and carousel, whatever your ad format looks like, that engagement piece, the first few seconds is so important. So I'll give you an example. I ran a TV ad campaign in 2016, 2017, and we took the same video from that TV ad and we ran it on Facebook as well. And what we actually did was to take the end frames, the end slates of the video, and actually bring them to the front. So we took the payload at the end of the TV ad, brought it to the front, because essentially with a TV ad, you've got that time where the person is watching the TV, and generally they're waiting for the program. You know, it's in between TV programs, and not generally going to flick the channel and maybe get up. Obviously, some people do. But on Facebook, people are more likely to flick past your content. So in that example, delivering that payload as early as possible in that video paid dividends. So whatever the proposition was, the offer, etc., brought that to the front and then ran the TV ad, and that helped to engage people early on and then hook them into that journey as well. And one of the things that I like to tell people is to take the customer from their goal to yours, one nudge at a time. This is what it's all about with engagement, which is, you know, no one's going onto Facebook or Instagram or any of these other platforms necessarily to go and buy something, but they will buy something if they find something of interest, or they'll sign up, etc. So your goal is to identify and understand their goal and to slowly bring them towards yours. So in these next screens, I want to take you through some kind of copy practices on how to get that engagement. So, you know, in the previous video, we've talked about the visual a lot more. I want to now focus a bit more on the content and the copy. So in this example, this is a pet store, completely fabricated, just to give you an illustration of kind of how it looks. And actually, I put this together in Creative Hub, which if you haven't used, you absolutely should. It's great just for setting up some ads and testing without having to go into Ads Manager. And in this example here, I'm sparking curiosity, so I'm identifying and solving a problem. So if your dog is as cheeky as Charlie, you'll love this. The red widget toy is tailor-made for cheeky chums to run around, burn that energy, and have a playful time. Treat your best friend to a durable, dog-safe widget today. Now, what you want to do is try and kind of identify with them and identify that problem. So, cheeky chums to run around, burn that energy, have a playful time. Part of this is that you are rarely going to find one ad creative that's going to work for absolutely everyone in an audience. So what I like to do is to pull out content and appeal to different subsects of that audience. So for this one, for example, I'm talking about a dog with high energy, but is also playful. So this toy is great for that, for example. In this example, I'm taking a different position. So one of the other things that works really well with an ad is to be controversial. So don't sit on the fence of anything. Either be for or against, be supportive or destructive. And so this example here, I'm talking about actually attacking the user and actually evoking a reaction as well, which sometimes works. And I'm not saying they do this all the time. These are just different approaches to test. So this one, struggling with high energy dog, it might be your fault. High energy is a sign that your dog is not in a routine, properly trained, or mentally challenged enough. The red widget toy, blah, blah, blah. What I'm actually doing is evoking an emotion here. So if you read this, you think, what? That's not me. What is this? I want to read a bit more, and I want to write a comment, and I want to complain. But actually, what I'd hope is that you read through this and you start to identify with this as I start to break down your false beliefs on actually what the problem is. But I'm drawing you into this as well. So it's a different approach to trying to get that engagement. This example here is now about relating. So it's a softer approach and befriending the person that you're serving this ad to. So in this example, we're saying, we know how struggling with a high energy dog can be. We can help. High energy could be a sign that your dog is not in a routine, properly trained, or mentally challenged enough. So all we've done from the previous ad is just to change that first line and to try and bring in a soft, subtle approach. So, I would, for example, run these ads to the same audience and actually see which one is getting the better click-through rate and hopefully the sale or whatever my kind of goal is off the back of this. But you sometimes have to test these things out as well. In this example, I just wanted to kind of emphasize how important it is to preview your ads in different placements. So in this previous example, it was the mobile, and this one is the newsfeed format. Slight typo here, but the key thing is just making sure that wherever your cutoff is on the copy, you're happy with that. So for example, on this one, I've designed this so that the emoji appears just before the see more. It's just to illustrate that you can play around with the formats and kind of get that view right, so that when people are looking, they're kind of drawn into the next part of what you want them to engage with as well. This one is talking about customer states. So if you've been through the funnel setup that I talk about at campaigns, where you have a cold, warm, hot audience and the existing customer base, the copy should be reflective of that as well. So as you take someone through the journey of not knowing anything about you and your brand or your product, to seeing your ads and knowing something, to maybe clicking and maybe adding to cart, you have already taken them through a few steps on understanding who you are, your proposition, etc. So relate that back into your ads as well. So for example, this is a retargeting ad where we say, hey, we noticed you took a look at the red widget toy, but you didn't check out. This is Frowny Pup. Frowny Pup wants you to enjoy the benefits of the red widget toy, such as XYZ. So what we're doing here is, in this fabricated example, is we're introducing a character, and we're trying to again kind of soften the approach, use a bit more a jovial conversational style of copy here to try and draw them back in. So if they've seen, for example, one of these slightly more kind of serious, poignant ads, we're now taking them to a softer approach and trying to grab them back in, because they know what the red widget is by now. They've come to the site, we're retargeting them, and we now want them to come back as well. So just think about what state the potential customer is when you're writing this copy and you're serving this ad as well. Another thing to focus on is urgency as well. Urgency absolutely works, but it has to be used sparingly and in the right moment as well. So in this example, free widget for high energy dogs, limited to the first 100 customers, and then we go into our kind of main copy. So what I've used is a few arrows, some uppercase, etc. Again, don't overdo it. You can throw some emojis in there, but be respectful of the reader as well. And you don't want to be too much in the face, which may turn people off as well. But the urgency message I put in all caps just to get that across. I'm not a general fan of putting too much in caps, but certainly if there's a promotion or something I just want to have stand out, then I might consider it. And don't be afraid of long copy. Long copy in Facebook and in the kind of newsfeed and stuff, it absolutely works. And I see this debate around, should I put short copy? Should it be long? Does it matter where they are in the funnel, etc., etc.? My obvious answer is, first thing, test. But the second thing is, don't be afraid of long copy, especially if you are selling an item which is, it needs a bit more of a storytelling, or it needs a bit more of a journey of kind of understanding exactly what you are selling, especially if it's like in this example, a red widget toy that just doesn't look like anything normal that you've seen before. So I might need to introduce a bit more copy to convince you, A, to take interest, and B, that it's worth your time as well. So in this fictitious example, I brought in a made-up expert, Dr. Dan Kersher, who gives some kind of reference around the expertise and the kind of science that's gone into creating this toy, and then some kind of bullet points on kind of the unique selling points as well. So you can kind of bring that out in your copy. But when you do create long copy, the most important thing is the first few lines. So it doesn't matter if you're writing 5 lines, you're writing 20 lines. If you don't get those first few lines right, no one's going to click you or read more. So absolutely focus your attention on that top part of the ad. And the other point I want to get across is also think about trying to be a bit different in your newsfeed as well. If you go through your newsfeed, you'll notice that a lot of the ads are samey, same format, same style of images, etc. Just try and think a bit different. So in this example, we're not using an image, and so this is a newsfeed ad with copy and then a kind of link at the bottom, which is the newer format for Facebook. And it's just different. It also looks a little bit more natural in your newsfeed. You could argue if you're interested in pets, then maybe this little guy here is fairly natural in your newsfeed. But again, just think about different approaches to stand out. And the other thing I want to also point out and emphasize is, do use Creative Hub for mock-ups and inspirations. Creative Hub is a great way of bringing across different ideas and approaches to kind of what can be done with Facebook as well. So Creative Hub is available as part of your Ads Manager. There are different sections that you can go through. You can create mock-ups. You can check the 20% rule, which affects delivery. You can get inspired. There's an inspired section there. But one of the greatest things about this is you can, as a non-Facebook person, you can go in there as a creative person, a copywriter, a designer, and you can quickly knock up some creatives as well and see how they look. And if you find something you like, save it. And it's really easy to then share that into your ad set. So as a workflow, it's a really, really good thing to be doing as well. Coming back to the content, one of the things that I do want to kind of focus on as well is how aware someone is of your product or service, and how aware they are of your solution as well, and how you take that person through the journey. So if they're not aware of your solution, but they are aware of the product in general, then your role is to convince them why your solution is, what the problem is and how you're going to solve it for them. With this one here, I know I need a solution, I'm aware of the product, then a lot of it comes down to price, promotion, and it becomes quite difficult. Then you need a completely different angle. Here, where they're aware they need a solution, but they're unaware of the product, then it's a bit more around product demos and kind of bringing across a bit more of the expertise around the product. And this is a great example of our dog example here, where the dog owner might know that they need something for their dog. They don't know that there's a product out there. And then this is the hardest, where the customer doesn't necessarily think they have a problem and they've never heard of your product. So it could be a brand new niche, something that you're going to solve for them that they never even realized was a problem. So using the example of Henry Ford, he invented the idea of a car to move away from horses without asking his customers what they wanted, because they would have preferred faster horses. So in that instance, you have to convince them that this is a better solution, or this is a solution to a problem, and actually then start to describe this brand new product as well. And some of the key things to be looking out for in communicating and engaging in your ad is what are the goals of your user? What are they trying to get that you can offer? What are their struggles? If it's a mum and you've got a product that helps mum to stay organized, then the struggle is around organization. So how can you focus on organization? Or maybe it's a false belief. Maybe there's a product that you're selling or a service that you're selling which is going to help solve a problem for them, but they have a different mindset around it. So how can you persuade them and bridge the gap between what they believe to be the case, which is not the case, and you're going to convince them otherwise, or perhaps what's the opportunity cost? What's the cost of inaction? If they don't take your product or your service or your offer, what's going to happen? If you don't buy that lottery ticket, the opportunity cost is you're not going to win the lottery. So it's kind of thinking about how you can translate that into your products and service and get that point across, that if you don't take this action today, or if you don't buy this product, or if you don't click here, you're not going to get the benefits that you want out of things that they're going to life or the product, etc. And also kind of things like impulsiveness as well. If you've got a low ticket value product, then impulsiveness is a big part of convincing people to buy as well. So a lot of people who are selling low ticket e-commerce products, they really push through on impulsiveness. So $20, $30 products, it doesn't need too much thinking to part with that much money, and so they play a lot on impulsiveness. So using a lot of social proof, some really cool videos, and trying to get that person to engage and click through as well. And one of the most important things I look at when I'm looking at the customer, the product, and the proposition is Maslow's hierarchy. So if you haven't heard of this before, Maslow was a behavioral scientist, I guess, and he was kind of studying, as a psychologist, he was studying human behavior and the different qualities that people have and they look for as well. And he's created this kind of layered pyramid which goes through the most basic needs, so right at the bottom of the pyramid, up to things which are aspirational. And a lot of it goes also from the physical to the non-physical as well. And actually, if you relate your product or service to one part of this pyramid, it also relates to how you need to communicate the product or service as well. So if you're selling something related to food or water or sleep, then people know naturally what that is. You don't need to explain that this is food, this is how you consume food, this is the benefit of food. We kind of all know that. Or the benefit of sleep. People generally know that you have to sleep, you've got no choice, but it also helps you to regenerate, recharge, etc. So there may be a few things you can skip. Now, as you go up that hierarchy, things like self-esteem or confidence or morality or some kind of sense of achievement, some maybe friendship, family, all that kind of stuff is a bit more intangible now. So when you're describing the product or service, you have to try and make it a bit more tangible and relate it to the person you're speaking to. So therefore the approach changes. And generally what I find is, as you go up the hierarchy here, you end up elongating the content, the funnel, the communication, because it takes that much longer, or it's that much harder to actually get your point across as well. So if you're selling, let's say, something which is going to help people become a lot more self-confident within themselves, then you need to take them through a completely different journey to selling food parcels or food packages or whatever it be. And so the kind of copy has to be a bit more inspirational. It has to connect a lot better. You're probably going to end up using long copy. You're probably going to end up maybe using email capture and take them through an email journey, etc. So I like to reflect products on the kind of hierarchy of needs as well. So it's just something to think about when you're coming up with your ads and your engagement as well. And the kind of last few parts of this is then breaking out the appeal and the connect. So when you're trying to appeal to them, appeal to their emotional state, especially if it's a higher ticket offer or if it's a less tangible product or service, speak to the emotional state, appeal to the emotional state, but then speak to their functional state. So appealing to their emotional state might be, let's say, a dating service, and you're lonely, or you want to meet that perfect partner and you want to have a wonderful married life. That's the kind of emotional state of it, and that's kind of how you can appeal to the emotional state. The emotional state is embedded deeper in the mind, in the brain, and so when you can cut through to that deeper part of the brain and kind of that deeper response, you're more likely to get someone hooked and engaged. And then speak to the functional state. So here's a dating app, or give us your email address, we'll send you some dating tips. What I find is a lot of people go straight for the functional, they miss the emotional out, and then wonder why their ad doesn't work. So it's just something to bear in mind. Now, in this next section, I just want to kind of focus on copywriting, and part of engagement is getting your copywriting structure right. So I've kind of gone through lots of different copywriters, John Capel, David Ogilvy is a key one as well. And what I kind of try and visualize is how you take someone through the journey of the kind of headline and then into the subheadline, etc. is very similar to how newspapers are written. It's also similar to how presentations are done as well, to take you through that key point and then to filter you through into the subsequent point as well. So I want to give you an example of how this might look. So this is based on what I think is one of the most amazing stories of recent times, a car in space. That for me, this is mind-blowing. That's like, I don't have words for it. But in this example here, what I've done is to take that kind of flow and that structure and broken it out into a typical kind of news piece. Now, obviously, this isn't something necessarily for your ad, but it's to give you an example of how you break it up. So at the top of your pyramid of your copy, you use as few words as possible. So SpaceX sends Tesla into space, and it's just about grabbing your attention, and then you expand and you add a few more words. Elon Musk's SpaceX program delivers his own Tesla into space. So you're giving a little bit more information, a few more nuggets, a few more nudges into getting someone interested in your piece of content, and then you use the kind of first part of this to give them a bit more chunky information and then take them through to the main content. So when you are constructing the copy, absolutely be thinking about this kind of approach of what is your headline, what's your hook, the first one or two lines, what's the connection that you're making, what's the, yeah, right, I'm interested in this, yeah, this is relevant for me. And then how do you expand that out? Then how do you expand that out again? And how do you then take them through the journey? You could get away with just one headline if it's a video ad and maybe it's a recognized brand, or you're doing kind of warm targeting, someone's already seen your ads or your visited your site. Maybe you don't need the full structure, but be thinking about how you can hook them and lead them as well. And the kind of final point I want to make is around policy. Facebook ads policy is a minefield. It's a minefield. There's so much to understand. There'll be some niches, some services, some products where you absolutely are immune to it, and you generally won't see a problem. But there are so many areas where you can fall foul as well. And Facebook over the last year or so have started to really put their foot down on policy. So I absolutely recommend that you go to facebook.com/policies/ads and have a look through. It shouldn't take you more than, 20, 30, 40 minutes to have a read through, but have a flick through and just understand how your visual and how your copy need to be played out to keep on the right side of policy. Now, when it comes to policy, there's a few different levels of rejection. Number one is a kind of mild rejection. So in this example here, you might have said, meet other black singles near you, which is against policy. And the feedback will say, ads must not contain content that asserts or implies personal attributes, etc., etc. So that's a kind of mild policy block. If, for example, you are pushing illegal products, then that's going to be a harder block. And actually, Facebook places some weighting on this as well. So I've been speaking to my rep around the different levels, and the general feeling there is the bigger the policy violation, the more chance your account has of being blocked. And so, for example, affiliates, they often fall foul of this big time. Affiliates are generally running 10, 20, even 50 different accounts at the same time to avoid being shut down. As a typical Facebook advertiser or an agency, you're running one, maybe two accounts, one for backup and one as your main. But you don't want to fall foul of this. You don't want to lose all your ad set history or your setup and etc., etc. So do keep an eye on policy and make sure that when you are trying to kind of create this amazingly good content to stop the scroll, to create the engagement, you're not falling foul of policy as well. So in this section, we've gone through nudge number 2, which is engage. And in the next section, we're going to talk about convert.